Feeders beneath the orchard. It was in the twilight of my family's laughter that I learned the true weight of my obsession. "You're going to lose your mind," my brother sneered, his face twisted with mockery as he leaned over the dinner table, the remnants of our meal forgotten. "What's next? Are you going to start believing in fairies?" That night, I sat in my room, isolated by the shadows of their disbelief, my heart a churning reservoir of shame and rage. I had just been fired from my job as an agricultural inspector for insisting that the missing child, a neighbor's boy, hadn't simply wandered off, but had been taken for something dark, something grotesque. The whispers of local folklore haunted my thoughts, the tales of the feeders, ancient fungal entities that lurked beneath the orchard, feeding off despair, had long been dismissed as harmless superstition, yet I could feel their presence. And my instincts screamed that I was right. But the world saw my insights as delusions, and my family, my flesh and blood, derided me for it. Years crawled by, punctuated by the meticulous study of mycological horror ecology, an endeavor that led me deep into the haunted underbelly of the earth. My nights were filled with the acrid smell of decay and the whispers of the subterranean, each new discovery a thread binding me closer to the truth. I traversed cursed territories, mapping the fungal networks that thrived on the fears and failures of humanity, each spore a testimony to the darkness we refused to acknowledge. And then came the day when I returned home, no longer the disgraceful son they had shunned, but a recognized expert, a harbinger of truths that gnawed at the very fabric of their comfortable lives. My reputation had shifted. I was no longer seen as a fool, but as a warning, a grim reminder of what lurked beyond our understanding. I walked through the front door of my childhood home, the familiar scent of baked goods mixed with the dust of neglect filling my lungs. My family was gathered in the living room, their laughter freezing at my entrance. The air thickened with an unspoken tension. My mother's eyes widened, the warmth they once held now replaced by a flicker of fear. "Look who's back," my father grunted, the disdain dripping from his voice like venom. "What do you want, James?" To gloat. "I'm here to share my findings," I replied, each word heavy with the weight of the horrors I had unearthed. "You need to understand what I've discovered." Their faces twisted in disbelief, eyes rolling like marbles cast aside. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to push past their scorn. The feeders are real. They're not just legends. They're organisms that feed on fear, despair, and they're spreading. My brother scoffed, but I pressed on, the urgency of my revelations uncoiling like a serpent. They're connected to the blighted crops, the missing livestock, and the missing children. They were taken to feed them. They thrive beneath the orchards, where the roots intertwine with the darkness. And then, as if summoned by my words, the room shifted. The shadows lengthened, dark tendrils creeping along the walls. The air grew thick, suffocating, and I could sense the creeping dread settling into their bones, an uninvited guest at our reunion. Suddenly, but I couldn't stop the truth from surfacing. "You mocked me for believing, but now you will understand." As I spoke, the shadows coalesced into shapes, fleshy, grotesque forms emerging from the dark corners of the room. The air thickened with the stench of decay, and I felt the weight of their disbelief turning into palpable terror. "Remember the stories?" I continued, my voice steady despite the chaos. "The ones you thought were silly? They are here, hungry for fear." And then they came, the feeders, their elongated limbs reaching